It's Friday, January 25th. Let's talk PlayStation. We're going to start this one off with a quick PSA. The Jak 2 Limited Run bundle is up right now, so actually by the time you're watching this, the first batch is already over. But if you're watching this before 6 p.m. EST, you'll have a chance to go for the second batch, and that is when Limited Run will do that, so 6 p.m. EST this Friday, mind you, so you kind of have to watch this video right away if you didn't know about this. But that is where you can get a physical edition of Jak 2, so just keep that in mind. I record these Thursday nights, so hopefully I got my copy of the game. I'm going to try and order mine at 10 o'clock, but just keep that in mind, and I still think this is awesome. I'm super excited for the physical edition of Jak 2, because you know how much of a fan I am of that particular game. And I really wish that Limited Run would do more of these at some point with Sony, with possibly more PlayStation IP that usually doesn't get a traditional disc release. Now, we've got more news on that secret Sony studio that we don't really know a whole lot about, but we're kind of thinking they're probably going to do another Uncharted. It's in San Diego. There's a few job listings. Well, Quentin Cobb, who is he works at Sony, he's a senior game designer, and his Twitter bio, of course, that's all it says. It doesn't tell us the name of the studio or anything like that, but he's basically at this secret Sony studio. He recently tweeted that he's welcoming James Martinchek to the team, and James Martinchek also has a very interesting portfolio to his resume. Working on The Last of Us, working on Uncharted. Well, now he's joined this new secret studio. I wonder what this team is working on. You know, before I honestly was hoping that it was more along the lines of a new IP. And sure, it could still be a third-person action-adventure game or something, but I just want it to be new in particular. As much as I enjoy Uncharted, I kind of want the series to rest for at least a good 5 to 6, 7 years at minimum before another Uncharted is explored, but of course Uncharted 4 sold too well, and same with Lost Legacy, so of course Sony's going to keep pursuing that, and they do want to have a separate studio to do to possibly continue that Uncharted franchise while Naughty Dog can go do its own thing and pursue new ventures. So it's looking increasingly likely that this may be a studio purposely built for more Uncharted games, which is not uncommon. Sony will purposely build studios with the proper talent associated with the particular genre or title in order to create a great game, and that seems increasingly likely as we talk more about this. So apparently the researchers at SuperData have some interesting things to tell us about PlayStation VR, and that's that 2018 was a very good year for PlayStation VR and the VR industry in general. So it accounted for $3.6 billion in revenue, which is a lot of money, putting it lightly, but PlayStation VR actually accounted for 30% of that, which is certainly a significant portion of that market. And PlayStation VR during the holiday season sold about 700,000 units, which is pretty impressive, and that's actually kind of what I guessed around in terms of where PlayStation VR fell basically when we did our predictions video, because the platform was at around 3.6 million units sold, and that was in August or maybe it was April when Sony confirmed that number. So I guessed, you know, they couldn't have sold more than, say, 700,000 units up until this point. So they're actually probably sold, they maybe sold closer to 1 million at that point. But 700,000 just in that holiday season, and that's of course attributed to the fact that there were so many sales for PlayStation VR, down to as low as $200, and you weren't even just getting the headset, you were also getting the camera. Some bundles you were getting 1 or 2 games, you were getting the Move controllers, so certainly some very good stuff there. But SuperData is also saying that by 2022, that the VR market will possibly be up to $34-35 billion of revenue, which is a 400% increase in that particular industry, and that's crazy. And of course, I think talking about the long-term future is kind of really hard to predict, because that's 4 years out, and it may not seem long-term, but considering that sort of massive jump in revenue, it seems pretty long-term to me. And we don't necessarily know where PlayStation VR is going to fall in terms of next-generation Sony hardware. I'm sure Microsoft will pursue it in some way, shape, or form, possibly. But also, there's still Oculus, there's still Vive, and those still do somewhat well, and many other peripheral makers are jumping into the market now and delivering all these different input methods in combination with VR headsets. So there's certainly a lot of avenues that can go. But the problem is still that, you know, even though it's constantly getting updated, a lot of these peripherals and updated headsets are going to cost so much more money. And so it'll be interesting to see if the market will adapt such higher-end technology that quickly, because as evident here, a cheaper PlayStation VR headset with 90 million PS4s in the market is what really starts to sell some units. Moving on, Sony recently announced that PlayStation Now will finally be reaching some more countries that are in the Europe territory. So, if you didn't know, PlayStation Now will now be available in Spain, Italy, Portugal, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. And this will join the current lineup of UK, Germany, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland, Austria, Luxembourg, and Ireland. I actually find it somewhat surprising that some of those countries weren't already supported. It must not be high on Sony's priority list, and I understand those countries may be small in comparison to certain other markets and territories, but still, I mean, those are still significant countries with significant populations, so it must not have been very high on Sony's to-do list, but at the very least, there it is. And as we always mention, PlayStation Now is certainly not going anywhere. Now, for this news story, we wouldn't normally talk about this, but we're mentioning it for one particular reason. So, recently, some of the guys at EA on the Anthem team tweeted that the game has gone gold, which means it's completed and it's ready to be printed onto discs, shipped to retailers, and it's going to hit its release date of February 22nd. But that's why we're talking about this, because if you've been watching this channel for a few months now, or if you've seen the PS5 rumors that we've covered about 2-3 months ago, well, here's a quick timeline of those events, basically. So back when Sony announced that they weren't going to be at E3 2019, one Reddit user in particular actually called that out one day prior to Sony announcing it. The Reddit user was RuthNitCookie, which made a lot of us think, okay, he clearly has an industry contact, so you can look through some of his posts, and we saw a number of other things he was saying in relation to PlayStation 5, which made us sort of think, okay, he's got a credible source. Let's see what some of the other things that he's saying about PS5, next-gen consoles, things like that. And one thing he also mentioned was that Anthem was going to get delayed. And so for a while I was telling you guys, all right, those are still rumors, take it with a grain of salt, but if he also gets that Anthem rumor correctly, that the game gets delayed, then we can really start to have a little bit of credibility to what he was saying in regards to PlayStation 5. Well, looks like Anthem is going to hit that release date. Now, he did mention back then, you know, things might change, but apparently back then he also did contact his industry source once again and was reaffirmed that Anthem was going to hit its release, was going to miss its release date. And that is not the case. So Anthem is coming out as it is supposed to be coming out. And that's not really surprising considering February's right around the corner, more or less. If the game got delayed now, I mean, that's kind of like not really good news. I mean, even last month, you probably would have been like, okay, thinking Anthem's probably going to hit its release date. And that's based off of the fact that you can just kind of tell with these sort of things when the employees of the game talk more openly about the game, when EA is constantly releasing footage and things like that. I mean, that happens with any publisher or developer. You can kind of tell when the game's going to hit its release date. But when you're 4 or 5 months out and you're not seeing anything in terms of their Twitter account or their YouTube channel or nothing, right, that kind of tells you it might get delayed. So, at the very least, that one is now down the drain. But we'll still closely watch those rumors and see just how accurate he might have been based on whenever Sony's ready to tell us about it. Which segues us nicely into a new PS5 rumor, and please take this with a very, very, very small grain of salt, but I do find this somewhat interesting when you do a little bit of digging and kind of break down what's actually happening here. But basically, this past week on Twitter, a very well-known chip leaker by the name of Tom Apisak, this guy has a very good track record with leaking out AMD parts and product codes and things like that. So recently he tweeted AMD Gonzala. And if you take a look at this little, he actually released a pretty handy picture that shows you how to sort of break down these product codes and code names for AMD products. And it's quite interesting. So if you do look at the picture, you can see the bottom one is sort of our example here, which is generation prototype, platform base frequency, model revision number. You can see physical package at the end, number of cores, and cache. So the top is the actual rumored chip that we got here, AMD Gonzala. And the first one we can really take a look at right there is the platform, which it's not a desktop server or a mobile, it's a G, which some people are speculating means gaming console. That 1600, people are also assuming that's the sort of customized PlayStation 5 hardware that is being provided to Sony possibly. Previously, Sony used a customized AMD Jaguar, so obviously they're going with AMD again, and that's actually confirmed information that has been well known at this point, that Sony's obviously being provided, is using AMD for powering next-gen hardware. Same with Microsoft. Actually, the CEO of AMD has already confirmed this, God, like probably half a year ago or something like that. So we kind of knew this for a while, so this isn't entirely surprising, and that's why we're really sort of overanalyzing some of these AMD codes here. Now, the 32, near kind of the end of that product code, some are saying that that's probably representing 3.2 gigahertz, which would be the clock speed of PlayStation 5. And just for a little bit of perspective, PS4 Pro topped off at around 2.11, 2.12, or maybe it was 13, I don't remember for sure, but it was somewhere around there. And so obviously this is a noticeable improvement over PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, is it a generational leap? You know, it's looking like it might sort of be there. I mean, we got to understand that we are at a point of diminishing returns, so you're never going to see a PS2 to PS3, a PS1 to PS2 jump ever again, really. We're seeing higher graphical details, higher frame rate, higher resolution. I'm sure many people are okay with that because many gamers, there's the two main requests that I always see, especially from this channel because I see so many comments, but not only just on this channel, but forums, IGN articles, Reddit, everywhere. The two big requests I always see is backwards compatibility with PS4 games, which it seems with most certainty we'll probably get that because both these platforms were based on x86, PS4 was, and PlayStation 5 will certainly do the same, and I think that's what's making it so easy for Sony to possibly achieve that, and again, same with Microsoft. The other one is consistent 4K 60 frames per second. That is another request right there with backwards compatibility that most people definitely want. And so the thing you always have to keep in mind, though, when it comes to frame rate and resolution is that that's at the discretion of the developer. People always say, I want a super powerful console that will do 4K 60 frames. You got to understand, this could have been achieved consoles ago. It's what the developer chooses to do, and time again, developers constantly choose a better visual fidelity over a higher frame rate or a higher resolution. That's just the way it is. They can, with a console, it's a closed box, so you kind of have to choose and pick your resources where you want them to go. And with a PC, it's an open platform. You can release all the toggles in a PC game that will let you, assuming that your hardware has the power to do it, turn up to 4K, turn up to 120 frames. You can't do that on a console because the developer constantly chooses to release their game in a certain way to the mass market consumer. And the other thing we have to sort of keep in mind with this particular rumor and where the power of PS5's sort of lining up right now, and again, rumors, it's looking okay certainly, but a lot of people would look at this and go, oh my god, this thing's once again underpowered, but it will be a high volume, low priced entry box. That's what consoles always are. They're simple boxes that are priced low at a high volume for many people to buy worldwide. So this is more in lines with maybe looking at a $400 to $500 price point, which realistically it can't go anywhere higher than $500. Sony knows that would be a grave mistake nowadays. And $400 was the sweet spot, but that rumor from the Reddit user a few months ago said that he was thinking it was going to be around $500, which I still think is a little crazy because Sony knows how well a $400 console does on the market. So take all that info for what it is. We do know Sony's going with AMD. We know that much. So whenever we sort of see anything leak from AMD, that's what makes it a little bit interesting. Oh, and the 8 cores too. The 8 cores lines up as well. So take that for what it is, but we'll see what happens in the future. So for this news story, man, we keep reflecting on videos we've done previously, but so Microsoft's new first-party developer, The Initiative, located in Santa Monica, they recently hired some new talent that previously was on God of War. So Chris O'Neill was the senior level designer at Sony Santa Monica last year's God of War. And so this is kind of just a news story to reiterate what I was sort of mentioning before in those prior videos, which is that this studio that Microsoft placed specifically in Santa Monica, you got to understand that's kind of like a sweet spot for them. They're going to be fielding out a lot of great talent from all the local development teams out there. And so that was obviously a good example, right? You've now got the senior level designer from God of War now onto whatever this project Microsoft's doing with for The Initiative. And we'll probably see this game be revealed with the next generation Xbox whenever Microsoft decides to show off their box. But that's what I was kind of saying. Don't rest on this particular developer because they are fielding out some really impressive talent, and this is probably going to be a very big game of a very high caliber. And when you've got people that have previously worked on these major Sony games now at Microsoft, I mean, you could possibly expect a very good game coming out of one of Microsoft's studios. Now, during an interview with Game Informer, the president of From Software, Hidetaka Miyazaki, discussed how he would actually really enjoy a Demon's Souls remaster. So he was actually quoted as saying, If it was a studio that really loved the original work and really put their heart and soul into realizing it again, then that's something I would enjoy. But it's really complicated because I have these fond memories. Thinking about the idea of a remaster gives me kind of butterflies in my stomach and makes me a little nervous. So it's complicated, but I understand there are many users and many players and fans out there who really love Demon's Souls. So if that's something that they could accomplish with a studio that loved the work, then yeah, I'd be okay with that. You know, Demon's Souls is really kind of this lost child in the Souls world because so many people fell in love with the Souls games, but so few people have actually played Demon's Souls, and that was initially, and it still is, a PlayStation 3 exclusive because Sony published that game. And obviously they also published Bloodborne, so that also will always remain exclusive to Sony, but it would be great to see Demon's Souls remastered, and it would be certainly in Sony's best interest to possibly pursue something like that, and they would be certainly the studio to, well, the company that would follow through with pursuing something like that because they published the first game, so it's really in their sort of basketball court to make that happen, and I would love for it to happen. I actually didn't get to play Demon's Souls, much like many people, because it was one of those games where it came out and it had this great cult following, but of course it was on PlayStation 3, and it kind of went under the radar for so many people, so it didn't get exposed to that many people. And then when they did Dark Souls, which is that spiritual successor on all these platforms, and it got all this attention, that's what sort of snowballed into this game being beloved by so many people. So Demon's Souls is that little fire starter right there, and it's a great game that does need to be, I think, it needs to be realized again on current hardware. All right, next up, footage from that Dreams beta is finally leaking, and my God, does it look really impressive. So earlier in the week, a Twitter user tweeted out a little video of PT being remade in Dreams. Looks really good. I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed. I can't believe the creation tools in this game they're this thorough to the point where you can make something like this. I was even more impressed with this Dead Space remake that again was tweeted earlier in the week. I mean, it looks incredible. I mean, from a distance, I think you'd have a hard time telling the difference between this and genuinely the first Dead Space game. It looks incredible. And it's just, I can't believe these tools allow you to make something this true to form. I mean, something like Little Big Planet, which Media Molecule's previous game, and claim to fame more or less. Little Big Planet was great, and it let you do a lot of things with the creation tools, but it was still a platformer at heart. And even if you manipulated LBP's tools to make a shooter or a top-down view game or something like that, it still very much was, a scenario where you can see all the sort of materials being used, right? You could recognize the wood material or a few objects that are sort of pre-built in the game that you could just stamp on. You could recognize all the stickers from the sticker collection, right? You can see how people sort of mix-matched all those things and built them together in a Little Big Planet. But something like this, I'd have to imagine you'd look at the Dead Space footage or the PT footage and think, how did they do that? How did they sort of use those tools to make that? Now, we don't have the game, obviously, or I don't have the game. I haven't been playing it, so I guess I wouldn't really know. I mean, maybe you would be able to recognize the creation tools in other people's projects, but it just seems like there's so much more you can put into it to really make something that is truly unique. And there's two things I really draw from this. One, why was there an NDA on that beta? Media Molecule, this is what you need to build hype for this game. You need to show people what can be done in this game. You need to tell people that, hey, there's a lot of people that are maybe off put by Dreams because it's just not their kind of game, or they're not into the creation tools. Oh, I can't make something. I'm not a creative type. Maybe I'd play other people's levels. Well, then show them this footage. This is the kind of stuff that needs to go out and needs to start building hype now. You need to start getting people excited about this game because it's already very niche in a way of like, I can't see this game selling more than 2 million copies. But maybe it could if you let people know just how incredible and ambitious this game can actually be. The other thing that I'm kind of drawing from this is that I'm almost afraid of people that want to create in this game purely because for the guy that wants to create something completely original, right? Like his own game idea. He's going to name it something cool, come up with his own storyline, things like that. It's going to get buried under all the Dreams levels that are just recreating other video games. Oh, a MotorStorm remake. Oh, a Silent Hills remake. Oh, this remake. Oh, it's a Kingdom Hearts level remade in Dreams. And because it looks so damn good, so many people are going to want to explore all these levels of games just being remade in Dreams. And they'll look so damn good that you can actually probably genuinely play it a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm almost like sort of worried for that starving artist that's going to make something totally original in Dreams. But man, that's really crazy. And I'm telling you, I mean, I was excited before. I was always into Dreams, and this was always my kind of game. But now I'm really excited. And I'm also really excited for Let's Talk Plus, our weekly Let's Talk PlayStation giveaway, where one of you could win a $10 PSN code, or like last week, because the contest was for a copy of Super Life of Pixel. The kind folks behind the game gave me 15 codes to give away to you guys. And here's the thing. They gave me 15 codes, but the website that I used to run my contest, Gleam, apparently because I don't pay for the service, I can only announce, it only lets me pull 10 winners. So here are the winners. Congrats, guys. You have won a copy of Super Life of Pixel. I'll be contacting you over the weekend, and we'll figure out, if you're in the U.S., you'll get a U.S. code. If you're in Europe, or if you want a Steam code. I know some of the winners aren't in the U.S. or Europe, so you might either have to get a Steam code or just take a Europe code and make a UK account and download it. But you are the winners, and I'll contact you shortly. I'll figure out something else for the remaining 5 codes. I'll hang on to them for now and see what ends up happening in terms of contacting all those winners first. But next week we'll be doing a regular $10 code, which I know some of you are not really disappointed with, because you do also enjoy having the $10 and just spending it wherever you choose to do so. And as I always say, let me pay for your games. So if you want me to pay for your games, follow the link down below to the Gleam website. You can subscribe on YouTube, you can follow on Twitter, you can follow on Twitch. Let me pay for your video games. We do this every week on Let's Talk PlayStation. Those are some of the news stories that I want to talk about with you guys from this past week. So now if you didn't see on Tuesday, I uploaded a video why I like the PS3 better than the PS4, or more than the PS4. I mean, quite frankly, I felt like that's just kind of how I've been feeling lately. I missed the PlayStation 3. It was a great platform. But to be honest, there are some things the PS3 does that is just either better than the PS4, or something that the PS4 simply just doesn't do or doesn't have. And I felt like that was just an interesting topic and an interesting video to do. So if you didn't see, by all means, go check that out. And this coming Tuesday's video, I'm not going to tell you what it is. As I said before, shrouded in mystery. Not going to let you know. But I will tell you, it's quite funny. It's an interesting kind of thing that I did. Kind of out of left field, but you definitely are going to want to stay tuned for that, because there are some very interesting games in this footage that I'm going to be showing you this coming Tuesday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Badecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you all next Friday.